You have 48 hours to vacate this property or we're changing the locks. That's what 3 strangers in cheap suits told me when they showed up at my front door. Diesel from their idling black SUV mixing with crisp Colorado air and the tang of fresh sawdust from my morning renovation. The woman in charge jammed seizure paperwork at my face while her 2 cronies boxed in my driveway like I was the perp in a TV raid. I'm Jake Mercer, retired Navy SEAL, 20 years special operations, 2 tours that left a limp the VA calls minor and instincts I've learned never to ignore. Those instincts started screaming the second I saw their props. Toner wet photocopies that still smelled like warm plastic, glossy badges that looked like Halloween accessories, hands shaking because adrenaline doesn't lie. They picked the wrong porch, the wrong veteran, the wrong town. 8 months ago, I inherited my Uncle Roy's paid-off rancher in Pinewood Springs, population 3,200. Deck boards rotted, kitchen from the Carter years, bathroom you'd report as a crime scene. Perfect for a man who traded rifle grips for hammer handles and meant it. I came for quiet, coffee on cold mornings, the sting of pine dust, neighbors who waved but minded their own lives. Then Veronica Blackwood blew in from Denver in a white BMW and beige blazer that screamed middle management with a god complex. She appointed herself community standards, the way ticks appoint themselves masters of dogs. Week 1, she fined me $500 for unauthorized construction while I replaced rotted deck planks. Week 3, another $500 because my grass was allegedly 3.2 inches where her invisible rulebook says 3. Week 6, she declared my regular Ford F-150 a commercial vehicle, violating residential parking. Each notice arrived on Pinewood, Springs HOA letterhead, official fonts, stern tone, 0 legal standing. Because when I checked title when the house became mine, there were no recorded covenants, no dues, no HOA. Veronica's authority was a printer and a portfolio. My neighbor, Mrs. Chen, a Korean War widow who bakes cookies that could end feuds, whispered that Veronica had shaken $1,800 out of the Hendersons to resolve garden gnome violations and was now terrorizing anyone too elderly or too new to know their rights. Lou the mailman, 12 years on this route, confirmed there's never been a legitimate HOA on our street. I've spent 2 decades facing people who think they're above law. Veronica was about to learn the difference between a bully and a man who respects real authority. 3 days after Lou's heads up, the entourage returned. Veronica in her beige blazer, 2 clipboards, cheap plastic badges, and a lot of swagger. The air carried her expensive floral perfume layered over the diesel idol of their truck. Your property is under emergency management for persistent violations, she announced. We need a $5,000 compliance deposit or asset seizure within 48 hours, puffed her accomplice, Rick, the soft, nervous kind of middle manager who brags about power lunches while microwaving leftovers. Darren, lanky and sweating, shuffled papers like loose leaves. I leaned on the door jamb and asked which court had signed the order. Darren blinked. Not exactly a court order per se. Community enforcement, under the HOA bylaws. Which bylaws? I asked, stepping closer, letting the old interrogation cadence drop into my voice. Where are the recorded covenants? Veronica flushed. Don't you dare question legitimate authority. Your behavior is lowering property values. Terrific, I said, pulling out my phone. As a participant in this conversation, I'll record, since Colorado is one-party consent. The effect was instant. Darren backpedaled, Rick's clipboard started rattling like a snare, and Veronica, eyes hard, doubled down. You'll pay now or we change the locks tomorrow. After they retreated in a fog of muttering and empty threats, I went to work. Cameras on, plates photographed. DMV checks and a few calls told a story their letterheads couldn't. Rick worked evenings at Kinko's where the toner smell on their notices came from. An employee had seen him pay cash to use machines after hours. Later, over cinnamon and old wood polish in Mrs. Chen's kitchen, she told me she'd watched Veronica pocket cash from Mr. Thompson. No receipt, no form, just a purse full of fines. Bullies who get paid in paper money get greedy. Greedy gets sloppy, sloppy gets caught. In Afghanistan, we said amateurs talk tactics, pros talk logistics. Veronica's logistics reeked of toner and panic. 2 weeks later, Veronica decided to escalate with theater. A patrol car parked behind her BMW, paint too fresh, light bar crooked, numbers misaligned, and Deputy Richardson climbed out wearing a poly-blend uniform 2 sizes off, a crooked badge and brown loafers. No real cop wears brown loafers. "Court order. Evacuate in 24 hours or be arrested for contempt," he announced, lowering his voice to what he thought cops sound like. "Deputy Richardson, your badge number and ID?" I asked, phone out. "I'll call the sheriff's office to verify." Color drained, sweat bloomed. That night, Veronica rented the library community room, pitched a standards hearing, and preached about my lawn height, my unauthorized construction, my commercial truck. "Show us the recorded covenants," I asked. Blank. "Colorado law requires HOA rules be recorded with deeds," I said. "County clerk shows none exist on our street." Mr. Thompson, who'd paid $2,300 for mailbox violations, sat up like he'd been slapped. Mrs. Henderson, fined $1,800 for gnomes, started shaking with anger. Veronica tried to regain control by bringing Deputy Richardson in to frighten people, but I had already called the real sheriff. 5 minutes later, Deputy Martinez, actual boots, actual presence, walked in, shook my hand, and asked where the impersonator went as Rick fled jangling, badge flapping. After her public faceplant, Veronica filed a restraining order. In Judge Patricia Coleman's courtroom, she wore funeral black, dabbed dry eyes, and alleged I bragged about hunting people and threatened to make her disappear. "Do you have recordings, witnesses, messages?" the judge asked, fluttering hands. "No." I played my library recording. The judge's eyebrows climbed with each fine, and each shouted, "Authority." "Miss Blackwood," Judge Coleman said, voice flat, "your request is denied. This recording suggests false pretenses and impersonation of law enforcement. I'm forwarding it to the district attorney." While we were in court, 2 new assessors visited my place, asking Mrs. Chen questions and peering through windows. They didn't know Uncle Roy's system recorded HD video and audio from every angle. On camera, they discussed which violations to plant. Veronica's petty fraud had taken its mask off and shown conspiracy. When intuition says you've seen the tip, find the iceberg. At the county office the next morning, Beverly at the clerk's desk typed like a pianist and frowned at her screen. 23 recent liens from one source, she whispered. Veronica wasn't just extorting cash. She was clouding titles with fraudulent HOA liens, $5,000 to $15,000 each, then positioning a fresh LLC, Pinewood Property Solutions, to buy distressed houses at tax sales and foreclosure for pennies. Owner of record, Veronica under her maiden name. 3 families had already lost homes, like the Millers on Oak Street. Market $260,000, sold for $28,000. A cooperating title officer had rubber-stamped the filings, Marcus Webb of Riverside Title. We weren't looking at a crank with a clipboard. This was a network. Fake HOA, fraudulent liens, title corruption, cash flips. I called Sarah Mitchell, former Naval Intel, now FBI Financial Crimes. We'd tracked bomb money together. Fake fine money is easier. Mail fraud, wire fraud, conspiracy, RICO. Send me everything, she said. Then Tom Rodriguez at the Denver Post, Marine vet turned investigative journalist. Front page, he said. Mrs. Chen's living room became a neighborhood command. Post, maps, affidavits, timelines. Lou's mail route turned into an intel network. Who'd received notices, who'd paid, who'd been targeted first, elderly alone, new residents, classic predator profiling. Deputy Martinez offered what he could. Get the feds. Every agency will follow their lead. Tom uncovered Veronica's history. Similar scams in Arizona and New Mexico under other names. Victims unable to fight civil cases. My real estate attorney buddy Mike laid out how federal jurisdiction would follow bribes, wires, and interstate filings. By week's end, we had what tacticians call overwhelming force advantage. Documented victims, bank trails, county records, a journalist's spotlight, and an FBI agent assembling a RICO tree. Veronica thought she was dealing with a grumpy vet. She was about to meet an avalanche. Cornered predators escalate. A certified mail lawsuit claimed I keyed her BMW and menaced her. Her witnesses were photocopies. We forwarded it to Sarah. Mr. Thompson's mailbox was spray-painted snitch. The Santos family's tires slashed. Move away scratched into paint. Gnomes smashed on Henderson's lawn. Veronica tried bribery twice. $10,000 cash at my porch. Neighborly gesture. Caught on my phone. $10,000 to Deputy Martinez. Caught on his recorder. Then the smear. Fake veteran profiles posted that I was violent, unstable, stockpiling weapons. Doctored photos and quotes about eliminating threats. Sarah's forensics linked the accounts to Denver IPs in the same network as the fraud, and to military records details that no civilian should access. The story went wide. Tom's series exposed a multi-state scheme. The FBI's Joint Task Force took over. Sunday night, Sarah called. Warrant signed. We move in the morning. Veronica scheduled an emergency public safety forum about dangerous veteran behavior at the community center as her last stand. Inside, 200 residents, panic sweat and cheap cologne. Rick and 2 new thugs. Deputy Martinez on the wall. Mrs. Chen front row, calm as tea. Veronica's slideshow painted deck repairs as unauthorized construction, lawn close-ups as violations, and my flag as militant symbol. I stood mid-room. Thank you for organizing this. You're right. We have a community problem. You are that problem. I laid county liens, bank trails, shell company filings on her podium. Murmurs rose to a growl. Sarah stood, credentials catching the light. FBI. We have arrest warrants for Veronica Blackwood, Richard Blackwood, and Marcus Webb for mail fraud, wire fraud, conspiracy, bribery, and racketeering. Agents moved. Thugs vaporized. Handcuffs clicked. Cameras caught the end of an era. The applause lasted 5 minutes and sounded like weather. 6 months later, I drank coffee on a rebuilt porch smelling of fresh pine, while kids laughed in yards that had been quiet with fear. Veronica pled to 17 felonies, 4 years plus 6 months for perjury when she tried to spin it as overzealous community involvement. Rick and Webb got 18 to 36 months. The Denver muscle flipped, widening the case. Asset forfeiture repaid victims, BMW, condo, jewelry, portfolio sold. $340,000 distributed with interest. The Millers got their house back. The Hendersons threw a gnome liberation party we'll talk about for years. We built legacy from wreckage. Mrs. Chen's weekly coffees formed the Pinewood Springs Neighborhood Defense Network. Lou's Intel became an encrypted check-in group. The recovered funds seeded a community defense fund, and our Unity Festival, 800 DU, attendees, food trucks, rights education booths, held in the same room where Veronica made her last speech. Martinez made detective and now trains departments statewide on property fraud patterns. Tom's series went Pulitzer nominated. The Blackwood Act passed. State verification for liens and HOA claims. My kitchen became an informal clinic for veterans facing civilian scams. The phone keeps ringing from Texas, Arizona, Utah because Veronica's travel. Knowledge and neighbors beat clipboards and toner. Drop your HOA bully story below, more common than you think. Subscribe for the next takedown. A charity that stole $200,000 from hurricane victims and the sting that ended it. Justice in suburbia tastes like coffee and sounds like kids. It feels like a front porch you actually own.